Hey everyone, welcome to Ajay and Nathan Discuss Movies, a show in which we discuss movies both old and new. Today we have a new movie out in the theaters right now.
Our
January
first movie of 2025.
We survived a year, man.
We did.
We survived a year. But we do have a new movie that came out in the theaters this past weekend. Mm-hmm. And what is that movie titled, Nathan?
The Damned. 2025. I didn't look up the name of the director.
No worries. But it's made in England, Ireland?
Yeah, like British, Irish film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was filmed in multiple countries, that you would say?
I would say it looked mostly like Norway, very snowy.
Yeah. Anyways, Nathan, what's this movie about?
The Damned takes place about the 19th century, follows a small group in a fishing village during a very rough winter. Supplies are very low. One day, while out to fish, they notice a wrecked ship, a vessel that is sinking off the coast, and they choose not to help, and that decision leads to perhaps supernatural occurrences that torment these poor fishers in the village.
And how did you feel about this movie, Nathan?
Meh.
This
is a very meh movie. It's not terrible in any way. It is just incredibly unremarkable. It is a movie. It's one of these isolation kind of horror movies, people trapped in one spot, slowly losing their mind. There is oftentimes a supernatural element to it. It is very much that kind of movie, like John Carpenter's The Thing in a way, but this movie, it just does everything a movie like that does, just a little bit worse. And those are generally my thoughts on it. An unremarkable film.
Yeah, so I texted you on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I watched this a few days ago. If you're watching this, just know it's been like eons since I watched the movie. But I did watch it on Sunday, and I think I messaged you over the course of the week being like, this is like if Alien meets The Revenant.
Yeah. And I was confused because I thought, you're comparing quality-wise?
No, I'm just saying if you took both of those and put it in a blender, and then you like pulped out all the good stuff out of those movies.
Yeah, I can see where your brain is at. I can see what would lead you to say that, but at the same time, it left me baffled and confused.
It's a good movie. I want to be very clear here before I get into my critiques of the movie. It's a good movie, but it's unremarkable. And most importantly, it's a little unmemorable. There's a lot of things that happen in this movie where you leave the theater and you're just like, I enjoyed it. I don't remember much about it. It's as if this movie never occurred.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling. I saw it literally yesterday in the afternoon, and I already am struggling to remember a lot of what happened. It is just a very kind of boring movie. It's oddly kind of paced, the plot. A lot of stuff in the movie, I think, only happens because it's the thing that is supposed to happen in this kind of horror movie. Like, people go crazy and yell at each other and do insane things, not because of really any concrete reason within the story, but only because, like, this is the thing that happens in a movie like this.
Yeah, I think one of the issues, I mean, there are a few positives. We'll get into the positives, but I think one of the issues that I have with the movie is that I feel as if the fun, the intrigue of this movie happened when they were out in the water.
Yeah.
And we didn't get enough of that.
Yeah.
I feel like when it gets into the part of when they're in the cabin or when they're having these conversations or when someone's hallucinating or having these nightmares, that's where the film kind of loses me. And I feel as if there were more scenes in which they go out in the water and they have to fend off these people that are trying to like take over the boat. I feel like if they were just stranded in the water, it may have been a better film.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that those first 20 to 30 minutes, I was very interested in what was happening. This small village, this group of people all trying to fish for a harvest to sell their wares in the spring, but it has been a less than bountiful kind of winter. They notice a ship wreck off the coast. Some of them want to help, but they cannot because the supplies are so depleted, and taking in anyone trying to save these people would just hurt them, and so they choose not to. And that's a very interesting premise to start the movie on. You get right immersed into this conflict, and then it all just starts to fizzle out. There's a thin kind of, there's a supernatural element, but that is never truly, I think, fleshed out enough. Again, a lot of the beats that they hit just feel like they're being hit because it's the kind of thing that happens in this movie. People go stir crazy and start hallucinating, but the reasoning feels very thin. There's one guy who just goes crazy in the middle of the night, and throughout the entire movie I couldn't understand why they were going crazy. Was it just a pure mass hallucination amongst these folk, or something else? I really couldn't understand what was happening.
Yeah, and you mentioned the mythical lore.
Yeah.
I think that's where the film lost me, is when they're trying to have this one older lady describe it, and it's just like, how are you able to get all this knowledge about the mythical lore behind whatever's happening? You know, it felt very tacked on and not well established. And I feel as if they focus more on the characters, which I think the character Odessa Young stars in the film.
Oh, she was the
she's great.
lead. Yeah, no, she was very good.
But I think if you just had them out in the ocean, and had a more alien-like feel to it, it may have been a bit better. I know that's a little bit of a, I wouldn't say critique, but that's a little bit of a jump, right, for this film.
Yeah,
that's a bit of an ask for this film to do. But I thought that was the direction of where the film was going.
Yeah, I thought if they would have slowed things down, because almost immediately when weird stuff kind of starts happening, that's when the older woman who's on this island is like, it's a droga, it will rise from the grave and consume our souls, it seeks revenge. And I feel as though had they paced it out a little bit, let that come in maybe the midway point, just keep it more ambiguous, but the entire movie, it's just like, ooh, it's a ghost, it's a spooky ghost, it's a spooky monster, it's running around the island doing spooky things, and then there is a twist at the end that I think just further muddles everything that kind of happens. It just kind of, it was a head scratcher, and not in a very good way,
in a very incoherent way.
Yeah.
In a way that leaves you thinking like,
huh?
Yeah.
What? How does that make sense given everything we've seen before?
Yeah.
Very.
And if that's a hallucination, then why weren't the other deaths also hallucinations?
Yeah. The thought that I had upon finishing the movie was, if this were something that I just found on Netflix, middle of the night, just a spooky little folk horror film, I would have had an okay time with it. But going out to the theater, sitting down, watching it after an hour of trailers, and then just kind of being left with a sense of meh, it did not strike me the way I think the movie wanted to strike me.
See, that's where I disagree.
Okay.
Because I think this film should be watched in theaters, because the cinematography is stellar in this movie.
It is good.
It is beautiful. It is a beautifully shot film. I know, like, we say, oh, this film has great cinematography, and we're sort of just saying it as just like a cheap appraisal, But this film really has great cinematography. It is a beautifully shot film.
It is a very well shot movie.
So that's one of the few positives I had of the film. So I do think that I don't mind this film being out in the theaters. Obviously, do I think it suits Netflix well if they carried it on their streaming service? Sure. But I think in terms of just the cinematography alone, it deserves to be shown in the big screen.
Yeah, sure.
Is the story lacking? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I do think in a lot of ways, this is the one film where I'm like, no, I kind of understand why this would be shown in the theater. Having said that, we were the only ones in the theater when we watched this movie.
Yeah.
So we're not really expecting high views on this episode.
No.
On this review.
This is for the 3 people who see that this movie exists and says, what are people's thoughts? And then they find us as the 2 people with thoughts, and they decide, I'll skip this.
Yeah.
Not the movie, us.
Yeah, us as well. Anyways, back to the movie.
Yeah, back to the movie.
Back to the movie. What else? We didn't mention the positives. I mentioned the positives. What were some positives for you?
It is a very well shot, looks quite pretty, I think. All the performances are very well done. Every actor is very good. I am a sucker for some folk horror. I like a cool monster. I like some myths. I like some lore. That's just me. But beyond that, I can't say much more. It's not that my negatives are super negative. It's just this movie doesn't really have any high highs or any egregious lows.
It's just that the negatives detracted us from liking the movie. That's it.
It's not terrible.
It's not a terrible movie.
It isn't. It's just nothing. It's really nothing special.
For a January horror movie, I was impressed.
For January, yeah, because January, February are often dump months for studios, but because what Hollywood is now, which is it's always been confusing, but now it's just confusing in a different way, that I guess they feel comfortable dropping some different kind of stuff, not just this movie was made 5 years ago and we've just got to get rid of it to make some money. This feels more like, oh, we have this, we'll put it into a theater. It deserves some eyes. And I guess if you are into the slower burn folk horror, you can find some nice things in this movie.
All right. Let's get into spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
So what happens at the end? Because you talked about
the whole setup in the beginning is they watch this vessel sink. They go out. They decide that they can't save the people from the ship because it would deplete their already limited resources. But they do have the idea to go out and maybe we can find some supplies because we are having a very rough winter. There are some survivors from the ship who attack their small dinghy trying to get on. Some of them drown. One of the fishermen cleaves the guy with like an axe, and the rest of the movie is them believing that one of these people from the vessel has come back to life as a draugr, as a Nordic spirit, to hunt them down and take its revenge, until we learn at the very end of the movie that the person who they thought was a spirit was just a survivor of the vessel the whole time. It was just a normal guy. Odessa Young's character doesn't understand what he's saying, and so she shoots him and then claims to the remaining survivors that I've killed the monster. And the twist is weird to me because it's not as if this survivor was kind of going around killing the members of the fishing village. It's not like he was doing anything to them. He stole their food initially, but then for the rest of the movie kind of hangs back, hides somewhere, while everyone in the village just goes crazy just because.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a movie that I think a supernatural element would have made more sense. Otherwise, it's just this guy stole their food and then they all went crazy and killed one another. And then he popped out to be like, oh, hey, could you guys help me? I'm hungry.
Yeah, where was he hiding?
Where was he?
Because that's the thing, is that like this film feels very like expansive, and like the shots are beautiful, but like when you get to like the grassroots of it all, it's literally just a cabin.
It's just a couple it's just a couple small cabins. It's freezing cold.
Yeah.
It's either he was hiding in their shack where they all just kind of sleep in like a communal bunk, which how is he hiding there? Or he's sleeping somewhere out in the mountains because that's where they see tracks lead to. But how is this guy surviving in the mountains? Furthermore, how did he survive the freezing cold water of that vessel? How is he able to wash ashore completely fine, get pinned in a pine wood box, make his way out, and then have all the mental fortitude to with these people and steal their fish and then continue to survive? It's It's like these little things just they all kind of build up and they just make you think, how does this work? How does this really make sense when you think about it?
The CinemaSins counter is going off the
It's
roof.
going crazy.
Yeah, the CinemaSins counter is going off the
Ding,
roof.
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, there are issues when you like get into like when you really sit down and think about the movie. There are issues with it, but on the surface, you could watch it and think to yourself, yeah, but it's still a fine movie.
Yeah, it's okay. It's fine, but I'm not gonna really give it much more glory than it's fine. If you got nothing else to watch and you just want to go put something in your eyes, this isn't the worst choice.
It wasn't that scary either. I know that's sort of a
really
played out,
wasn't.
but it was very airy and atmospheric.
Yeah.
And not a lot happens for me to truly be afraid of, and I don't know what to be afraid of.
Yeah, because, again, it tries to sell you on, ooh, it's a spirit. And sometimes you see just a shadowy figure in a corner, and those are initially kind of cool, but I think it has this issue that I see with a lot of horror movies where they don't just let the moment sit. They show you the scary thing, and then it's just like loud strings, ee! And all tension is deflated. There were moments in movies like that where they let the tension build. I do get squeamish in my seat. I do get afraid of what I'm going to see next. But watching this movie, I'm just like, okay, do it. Make the loud noise. Jump. Go boo. Do it. I'm so exhausted. Go ahead.
Yeah. And that's the biggest issue with the movie.
It's not a very scary horror movie.
And it doesn't intrigue me to really be that invested with the other characters that are not Odessa Young.
Yeah, it's weird. A problem I have, and I've just been comparing this movie in my head to like John Carpenter's The Thing. There's a miniseries called The Terror, and in both of those, the supernatural element is not even like the biggest conflict. It's the interpersonal relationships. It's that interpersonal tension that boils to a head, and then the supernatural sci-fi element enters the story to just kind of set off that tinderbox. But in this movie, there's really no real issue between any of these people in the fishing village. There's her opening monologue at the start of the movie where she's saying, we've had a rough winter, we're running out of supplies, we've already eaten our backup rations. But then the very next scene, they're just like clanging their mugs on the table like, skål, we are drinking. It's like these people look too happy, and so when they all go crazy and just start stabbing one another, I don't buy it. I don't buy that rising tension. It just happens because it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, there was no sort of character arc with the characters that we're seeing. It's just like a complete 180 shift from them being good to bad.
And if the movie was, there really is a ghost in this village, it would have made sense in its own way, in the sense, why is this guy just going crazy in the middle of the night trying to strangle people? It was a ghost. Okay, I'll accept that. But instead, when the twist is, no, it was just a normal guy who was kind of hiding in their floorboards or in the mountains maybe, it makes no sense why two of the dudes in the fishing village go crazy for no real reason. It's just, there's the one guy who bangs his head and they bandage him up, and then he comes back and immediately slits his own throat. I don't know why he did that. He was fine up until that moment.
Yeah, and that is the damned.
That's, yeah.
There are no, I mean, what can we say that we haven't said?
Not much, I don't think. Do we want to wrap up?
Yeah, let's wrap up our thoughts on it.
Yeah, The Damned is the first horror film of 2025. It's okay. It's fine, unremarkable. If you are interested in something that's a little moody, some nice shots, a pretty atmosphere, it's not the worst way to spend an afternoon, but at the same time, I don't know, Nosferatu is still out. You could see that.
Yeah. See it again. See Nosferatu again.
You could see that again. Ajay, your final thoughts?
I was the only one in the theater. I went back to my old AMC because the old AMC actually got shut down.
Because of the rats.
The rats.
The rats.
So I went back. There are no rats, but there are no people.
That's good.
And I don't think anything really changed. I think there's still rats in there.
There's still rats
in that AMC.
That's the management.
Yeah, that's the
rats.
management. HR is the rat layer up there, up in the attic. But yeah, I watched it. I was the only one in the theater, and I thought, okay, like I watched Smile 2 in the theater by myself. It's going to be scary, right? Like, because I was scared during Smile 2 during certain parts of the movie. I watch it, and I'm like, oh, like I'm the only one in the theater. Like it's going to really amplify.
Mm-hmm.
No,
it didn't.
No, I was very bored. I took notes while watching the film, and I was thinking, like, oh my god, like, will my phone go? Like, will other people see it? And then I stood up, like, every like 15, 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, I'm the only one here. So, I'm not gonna say that I really had a pleasurable experience watching the movie.
Okay.
Despite it being an okay movie, but it's a film that I will never really think about again.
Yeah.
Which may be damning to say, no pun intended, but it is the truth.
It's the truth.
I didn't hate the film. I thought the cinematography was great. The same cinematographer who lends this film also lends The Deliverance and Pig.
Oh, really?
Back in 2021.
Nice.
And The Watchers. It's talking about mythical fairy lore and how that gets in the way of a film. The Watchers. So we tried to omit Shyamalan's name from this podcast, but
it was gonna happen.
It was gonna happen. It was bound to happen. But yeah, overall, I didn't hate the film.
No,
I didn't love it either. It's unmemorable, and yeah, those are our thoughts on the movie.
Those are our thoughts on The Damned. What did you think? Did you even watch it? Did you even know that this existed? Tell us in the comments.
Yeah, tell us in the comments. We want to hear your thoughts and opinions on this movie, because it's going to be the film we all talk about by the end of the year.
Oh yeah, it's already on my top 5.
Yeah, it's going to get Oscar buzz.
The Oscar buzz is insane.
For The Damned.
The damn.
All right, I think that's it.
That's it.
Bye.